One.
Hello, and welcome to our presentation on construction failure case study. This is presented by Zachary, Hillary, and Aramilka. During this presentation, we're going to review the Charles de Gaulle, I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm sorry, airport collapse. We're going to read the description of the incident, the actions that led up to the incident, and what consequences came from the actual incident itself. Here you can see a photo of the actual roof collapse and how major it was.
The Charles de Gaulle Airport, also known as the Roissy Airport, is the largest international airport in France and the second busiest airport in Europe. Opened in 2000, it is located in Roissy in France, northeast of Paris. Considered one of the largest in the world, holding 1,700 planes and had the capacity to hold 10,000 passengers, 10 million passengers a year, and on a daily basis transported roughly 200,000 passengers. This airport was a huge success, and there were so many tourist attractions minutes away, which made the airport a hot spot for visitors. The Charles de Gaulle Airport consisted of 3 layers of material. The outer layer consisted of plate glass, giving the structure a very modern look at the time. The middle layer was made up of metal supports, a very good choice for materials to hold and make this building sturdy. And lastly, the inner layer, or the inside, was composed of concrete blocks that will help support the metal supports. A couple of months had passed since the construction of the airport, and people were calling it a jewel from France, as it showed off French engineering skill and, in a way, a sense of style. On the hotly cold morning of May 23, 2004, catastrophe will have a toll on the Charles de Gaulle Airport located near Paris, France. It was early in the morning, around 7 a.m., when a few tourists heard cracking-like sounds and noticed small clouds of dust coming down from the ceiling, and then it collapsed. Down came the roof. Tons of concrete fell, leaving a huge gap in the terminal, which square foot weighed about 60 pounds. The width of the terminal was 100 and counting feet. So trying to imagine how much weight could have fallen on a person is something that you not want to think about. As the concrete roof gave out, it fell flat to the ground, killing 4 people and injuring 3. Terminal 2E had crumbled to the ground. This took many people by surprise because it had not even been its anniversary yet. It had only been active for 11 months when the tragedy happened.
Now, there were many factors that led to this incident, from designing errors to construction errors. There are many changes that needed to be made. Deep into the investigation already, it was pointed out that the metal structures were inserted too deep into the concrete blocks. This caused cracking in the roof. At the same time, this cracking weakened the roof, causing it to collapse. However, something else was found to be a cause of the collapse. The metal structure was constantly hot, which made it expand. The temperature had drastically dropped from around 78 degrees Fahrenheit all the way down to about 38 degrees. This meant that at one point, the metal was flexible as it was warm, but as soon as the temperature dropped quickly, it made the metal shrink back as it tried to straighten out, loosening the grip of the already cracked concrete blocks and causing it to plunge to the ground. The detailed design weakness led to the collapse of the terminal. There was a lack of redundant supports, poorly placed reinforcing steel, weak outer steel struts, weak concrete support beams, and low resistance to temperature. There should have been a complete design analysis to predict all of these structure deficiencies. The terminal was designed to be able to minimally restrict the flow of passengers to and from the gates. This is why it was so open with no interior supports. Cracks and concrete dust were seen coming from the ceiling before the collapse, and there were 4 faults found in the design or construction that aided in this failure. However, statements were released stating that the metal reinforcing in the concrete was the main reason for this collapse. Due to the fact that the external reinforcements did not pass through the most optimum location, this tensile side of the frame movement, external reinforcement was rendered ineffective. Also, the elliptical frame connection between the tensile and compressive side also lacked clear shear stiffness. It relied either intentionally or unintentionally upon bending stiffness of tangential compressive rods.
Working big construction jobs can become very dangerous and costly when deadlines are pushed. With that being said, it does not shock me one bit about the controversy the Charles de Gaulle faced prior to the opening. Many of the union workers complained that work was being pushed, which caused corners to be cut in order to save time. These cut corners to potentially try and save a couple days and cost the Charles de Gaulle months and millions. After the fall of the roof, the officials and reports didn't know where to start or who to blame. It took many months and multiple field material tests to find a verdict. The field tests were conducted by performing deterministic and reliability analysis using finite element and software. 3 subcontractors, the company that built the vaulted glass and concrete roof, was fined 100,000 to 150,000 euros. There was also another company. The engineering and inspection firms were found guilty as well for their poor inspections, as well as the airport had to pay a fine as well. And their fine was only 225,000 euros, which is 254 US dollars. 4 years after the failure of the Terminal 2E collapse, on March 20th, 2008, they rebuilt the Terminal 2E for $232 million. The new design added extra 1,000 square meters retail space and luxury boutiques. In conclusion, the Charles de Gaulle Airport disaster was not so bad in the amount of victims suffered. However, it was useful for many architects and engineers as they learned to analyze more carefully and ensure the safety of those who would be involved in their building or structure. To ensure that this wouldn't happen again, it was decided to rebuild the entire structure at this time. Without using the heavy tons of concrete, they opted to use glass and metal sheeting for the structure. The metal was still the first option. Now the terminal and the rest of the airport have been rebuilt, and is as successful as it's been before. Do y'all think that the consequences were too lenient for the deaths that occurred?
Yes, I believe there should have been more stricter consequences, especially considering some people had lost their lives and became injured. I do believe that the investigation didn't really point a specific finger. It kind of just stated there was flaws in the design in the building, and they didn't really get down to, in my opinion, how this could have been prevented. More they just try to fix it up and cover it up.
I think at the end, the good thing is that there weren't so many people injured. That was a huge incident, and it could have been worse.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely could have been a lot worse. With that airport being as popular as it is, I mean, like you're saying, 4 deaths. I mean, it sucks, but it definitely could have been worse.
I mean, hopefully, you know, this could be a experience for these engineers and architects that worked on this building, and so they you know, do better work next time. And I think that the time was another problem that, you know, played a really, okay.
Awesome. Well, it was definitely a good topic to research, and I feel like it has helped a lot of structure since then. So it was interesting to go ahead and actually find out the causes of this and the consequences for our future careers going into this kind of field.